Welcome into the Trevor Staub Show, episode number 23. Today, we have a special guest. We have the recent winner of the LWS Open at Idlewild, Isaac Robinson. We're going to talk all about that win to Isaac and how he's so darn good at putting. But first, we have a quick word from our sponsor. All right, before we get into the show, we have a quick word from our friends over at Pdga Craft Jerky. Pdga Craft Jerky hand selects the highest quality meats, placing emphasis on the most savory seasonings and nutritionally focused ingredients. By focusing on freshness, flavor, and quality, Pdga strives to produce the best tasting jerky on the market. I've got a bag right here of hot boom sauce, one of the best flavors. I've had all of the flavors, and this stuff is legit. It's super delicious. You definitely are going to want to go order it online. You can also check out, they're coming out with a plant-based jerky. If that's something you're looking for, they're partnering with Eagle McMahon for that, so that's, I'm sure, is going to be delicious as well. But make sure to go online, check out Pdga Craft Jerky using the link on the screen and pick some up. All right, we now welcome on our guest. We have the recent winner of the LWS Open at Idlewild, Isaac Robinson. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So before we hop into that win, because we're going to talk quite a bit about it, obviously, I want to help set the stage for people because you've kind of burst onto the scene recently. You know, you haven't been a super household name before this. A lot of people were surprised to see you at the top of the leaderboard even. So going back to the beginning of kind of your disc golf journey, you played your first Pdga event in 2011 in the Junior 2 boys division. That was kind of your start with competitive disc golf. But how long were you playing before then?
I started playing when I was about 5 or 6.
Okay.
So I was playing off and on for about, I guess 5 years at that point.
Okay, yeah. And was it something that, like, how did you stumble upon the game? Was it something that you kind of just, like, picked up randomly, or did you know some people that played?
Yeah, so my dad started playing back in, it was probably 1999, 2000.
Wait, wow.
Yeah, before I was born. And he just kind of really enjoyed playing, and so he would drag us out to the park as soon as we were big enough to walk. And so I owe my start to disc golf to my dad, getting me out there at a young age.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were one of 8 siblings, or you have 7 siblings, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so was everybody a part of the disc golf thing, or just a couple of you?
At that point, growing up, everybody was.
Yeah.
As people have gotten older, they've branched off and done their own thing. But yeah.
Yeah, and when you first started playing, did you notice pretty early on that you kind of had a knack for it and wanted to get into it? Did it hook you right away, or did it take you a while to really get into it?
It definitely took me a while. When I was, growing up, before I started playing tournaments, I really hated it.
Yeah.
I hated going out to the park.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not a fan at the start. But once I started playing tournaments, around age 11 or 12, I really got into it, really started enjoying it a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I totally get that. I was kind of the same way. Wasn't a huge fan of it when I started until I could get competitive with it. But talking about competitiveness, obviously, you having such a big family. Is there a lot of like sibling competitiveness that went on with disc golf, or was it usually pretty friendly?
It's very, very competitive at my house. Yeah. Everything, disc golf, of course, but really anything we do is a competition.
Yeah, and with your obviously your brother Ezra is a pretty serious professional player as well. Do you guys still have a little bit of a friendly rivalry that goes on, or is it mostly just kind of support?
It's definitely a rivalry.
Okay.
Anytime we go out to the course, there's a bet. We
Yeah.
just buy drink from the gas station or something. Whoever loses.
Yeah, that's good to hear because I've interviewed a lot of people who have like siblings and they're like, oh, it's all support. It's not that serious. But like I have a brother and like I know how it is. Like I know deep down like there's always that urge to win. But kind of moving forward in your career as you began playing competitively, at what point did you kind of start thinking to yourself that you'd maybe want to play professionally someday? Was that something that ever really occurred to you, or did it kind of just end up happening?
Man, I think for the most part, kind of just ended up happening.
Yeah.
I enjoyed playing local tournaments, enjoyed competing at a professional level locally, and I got the opportunity to play. I think Ledgestone was my first DGPT event.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going out there, I loved it, and realized I was pretty good at it, and I just kind of went from there.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of looking back at your PDGA track record, you clearly, before jumping on to tour, you had a lot of success out playing local events, occasionally traveling, but you decided to go to college first before hopping onto the tour. What was kind of the decision-making process that led you to, instead of, jumping right out there, because you definitely could have, going to college beforehand?
Yeah, I really wanted to get an education, wanted to get a degree before hitting the road. Um, I think my plan wasn't to go on the road when I decided to go to college.
Okay.
So I didn't have intention of touring until my, I mean, gosh, probably junior senior year of college.
Okay.
So it wasn't really on the radar until like I said, towards the end of college.
Okay. So for you, just going to college was just a natural part of things. It wasn't even like really a decision necessarily.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, but while you were at college, you got to have a little bit of disc golf fun. You kind of forwarded the disc golf program at your school, getting the course that ended up getting put in there and then kind of helping form the team there. Talk a little bit about like what that experience was, helping the disc golf community within your college.
Yeah, so it was actually really great. You get a roommate freshman year, and
Yeah.
you don't know who they're going to be. You don't know what they're going to be like. But mine just so happened to play disc golf as well.
Wow.
So kind of, just a huge blessing there to have somebody with a similar interest as me. And so together, me and Caleb, that's my roommate,
Yeah.
um, kind of built the college team along with some other guys. I couldn't compete in the college
Right.
national ever, but us working together, we really got we grew the sport on campus. We got our course expanded from 9 holes to they're gonna have 18 holes in the next year or two.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, just getting people aware of it. Once people started seeing like, oh, this guy plays disc golf, then we started talking about it. More people got into it, and just the disc golf community at Toccoa really just exploded.
Yeah, and what was your? I'm always curious to know because I played collegiate disc golf for 3 years, and I'd be curious to know like what was your overall impression of the college disc golf scene during your time involved in it?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I go to college nationals as the coach
Mm-hmm.
uh, 2 years ago, and it was just fun. Like seeing everybody, you're the same age as everyone out there. They're all in college. They're all playing disc golf. Um, Courses in North Carolina are just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So I, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great thing.
Did it sting a little bit knowing that you weren't able to compete out there?
Definitely, definitely. I really wanted to compete. I really wanted to bring a college title to Toccoa Falls, but
Yeah.
you know, not so well.
What do you think about the like professional limitations in college and stuff? Do you think they make sense, or they should adjust them, or get rid of them altogether?
I think they do make sense. As much as I wish I could play, I think they do make sense. Having you know uh, an earnings limit and a rating limit, I think is probably smart.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I've seen it kind of. There's some players on the border that you definitely feel bad for, but there are others. They're like, thank goodness I don't have to compete against them at the college level. The last thing you need is like Paul Macbeth going to get an online degree and then just beating everybody around. So,
Exactly.
um, so moving forward kind of toward to touring, this has kind of been your first year fully committed to touring. Going into this season, what kind of expectations, if at any, have you set for yourself when you were just entering the season?
Yeah, coming into this, uh, I got fifth place at Waco, and that was my highest finish in any Elite Series tournament of that size.
Mhm.
And going out on tour after that, I was really just trying to get top 15, top 20 consistently,
Yeah.
make a little bit of money, get my name out there, get recognized a little bit. So that was basically the main goal.
Yeah, so going back before you just had the win, would you have said up until that point you were still kind of meeting your expectations?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then since you've gotten that win, do you think your hunger for winning has kind of changed, has gotten a little more intense since getting one under your belt?
Yes. Yeah. Like we said at the beginning, I'm a very competitive person. Um,
Yeah.
so getting this win, it shows me that I can win, that I do
Right.
have what it takes to win,
Right.
and looking to do that a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's such a big thing is just realizing like, okay, now I know it can be done, and because at this stage in the Pro Tour, there's so many good players right now that, I mean, there are a lot of players who just probably think they can't win. So getting one under your belt, I'm sure that just makes your confidence go through the roof, for sure. But talking a little bit more about that win at Idlewild, going into the event, obviously you had a little bit of momentum, played well in Portland. Could you feel that you were going to have a good week? Did you kind of feel it in the air?
It's funny that you mentioned that because you know, I did not feel it. I did not think I was going to play well.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, all of my practice rounds, I think I've mentioned this a couple other places, but I think my best practice round was even par. Um, and so
Wow.
several of them were 2 or 3 over. And so,
Oh
I was
my.
just, they weren't super encouraging. But still,
Man. Well, what wasn't clicking in the practice round? Was it the putting that switched around, or was there just were you just not hitting lines and then it kind of just happened for you?
yeah, I just wasn't hitting lines. Earlier in the
Yeah.
week, it was really hot. And so I think some of the weather was kind of messing with me, just being so hot and humid out there. Um, but yeah, really just missing my lines in
Yeah.
practice, just not good.
I can see how that course in particular, it can be a deceptive of how bad you think you're playing because if you're not getting off the tee, you're never going to score and you're going to blow up all over that course. So it makes sense that like just a little bit of a switch and you could just flip it really quick. Do you feel like when you are on your game, do you think that the Idlewild course suits your game in general?
I think it does. Yeah, I play very straightforward. I don't try to do anything fancy.
Yeah.
Just middle. I throw a lot of mid ranges. Throw a lot of putters.
Hmm.
Idlewild really lends itself to that style of play.
Certainly, certainly. And now, one interesting thing about the event was the weather conditions. They were a major factor, it caused a lot of players frustration. Some players were even mentioning the need for weather stoppage during severe weather, even when lightning isn't present. What do you think about the current weather policies, and do you think that at any point during the event there could have been a stoppage?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. 'Cause obviously, lightning. Obviously they still have that rule.
Yeah.
Um, to stop. As far as heavy rain goes, um, Idlewild, the fairways were pretty muddy, so it was a bit of a safety hazard.
Hmm.
Um, but also, everybody has to play in it.
Right.
So it's not really an unfair advantage, um, either way because everybody's having to play in the mud, everybody's having to play in the rain. Um, so I think it would take a little more discussion, but for the most part, I agree with the weather rules for
Okay.
play.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So with your personal experience with the weather, how are you able to deal with the conditions? And have you always been able to navigate tricky weather without much issue at all?
Yeah, that's actually been a real struggle in my game
Okay.
up until probably a couple months ago. I was not comfortable playing in the rain. It
Okay.
threw me
Wow.
off. It threw my putting off. It threw just everything. It just makes me uncomfortable. And I think part of learning to play in the rain happened in Portland and Beaver State, where it just rained 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
so that really kind of threw me in the deep end, and having to learn how to play in those conditions. Um, so yeah, I think I am a better player in the rain than I was before.
Do you feel that a lot of the weather just comes down to like the mental acceptance of like it's happening, I just have to deal with it? Is it mostly mental?
I think a lot of it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Disc golf itself is 80%, 90% mental.
Yeah. So before we kind of get into more of your putting, because that was a big highlight, this is an interesting question because I've talked to a few players, and it seems like the tour is kind of split when it rains, whether you go for just let the putters get wet or try to dry them off. So which side do you sit on?
As long as it's not like torrential downpour, I try to dry them off
Okay.
best I can.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. Yeah, I've heard it both ways because some guys have so much trouble getting that that perfect grip back. It gets a little sticky, so they just have accepted, putting with the wet putters. I think it was Double G who I was talking to, and when he had that really good putting performance, he left them wet. So I think players kind of go both ways. But so you dry them off pretty much always.
Always, yeah. I think the split you might have there. I'd be interested to see who's a spin putter and who's a push putter. Uh,
That's true.
that I imagine the style of putting has a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I guess throwing a more spinny putt, having the grip is obviously a way bigger deal. So moving into the putting a little bit, obviously you had solid play all around, but the putting was the highlight. You were perfect from C1X and extremely effective from Circle 2. What was going through your mind on the putting green that led to all those putts dropping?
Yeah, I just had confidence.
Yeah.
I took what I practiced in the practice green, and I was able to translate that to the course. So I was feeling very confident, very comfortable. Um, I've made a million putts in the past, and
Right.
it just translated over. So
Was there? I mean, obviously, like Circle 1X is one thing, but the amount of long distance putts you were making was pretty incredible. Was there ever a point during your rounds where even you were in a bit of disbelief that they kept going in, that you kept making one after another?
yeah, there was definitely some of that. I think hole 12 where I slipped and fell. Uh,
Yeah,
that one was a bit of a shock, just because I was like, I'll just give it a run, see what
it's a tough
happens,
line. Yeah,
and it surprised me when I went in. So
yeah. Is it safe to say you were kind of in that mindset that a lot of times can happen in disc golf, where you make so many in a row where as soon as you can see the basket, you just kind of know it, you're going to make it, like you really just can't miss.
yeah, there was that nice little just like laser focused
Yeah.
feeling it.
It's the best place to be for sure. One thing I was wondering is, since the putting performance probably overshadowed the rest of your game, not a bad thing, but overshadowed it during Idlewild, was there another part of your game that you felt was clicking during the week and really led you to victory that people might not have been paying as much attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I think throwing those white putters that I was throwing
Yeah.
really really helped my game there. Just keeping them in the middle. I threw those probably, you know, 50-60% of my shots I was throwing the
Oh,
white
okay.
yellow mid. And so those really helped me just stay in the fairway, stay safe.
Yeah, I definitely noticed down the stretch, especially. Was that what you were throwing on 17 in the final round? Yeah, I noticed down the stretch relying on that shot to just keep yourself in the middle and stay out of trouble, and that was certainly a big thing. Um, so putting well, people are kind of zeroed in on Idlewild, but it's been a theme for you all year, considering you currently lead the tour in C1X putting. Has putting always been the strongest part of your game, or is it something you've really developed recently?
I think it's something I've developed this year specifically. Um, I've always been a decent putter. I think you have to be to be a professional.
Certainly.
But this year I've been putting a lot of practice, a lot of time just working on my putting, working on the longer distance putting, trying to get a step putt into
Hmm.
my game, and yeah, I think I'm seeing the fruit of that.
Yeah, definitely. I would certainly say so. Have you always kind of thrown that more spinny putt, or has that been something that you've gone to more recently?
Yeah, as far as I remember, I've always had a more spin putt.
Okay. Yeah, it always. I think you have such a unique putt because you kind of have that short spin, almost like let go of the disc seemingly early, but it pops out of your hand. Are there times that using such a spinny putt has gotten like it can get frustrating when I feel like the spin putt has bigger left right misses when it's not on?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
when I do miss, it's usually releasing it early or just a tad bit late if it's sticky, hot
yeah.
out. Um, yeah, so definitely the misses.
Yeah. So obviously, putting, the technique is a big part of it, but the mental game is, most of it once you get to a certain level of practice. What are the key things you focus on? Even if it does involve something with your form or your mental game, like kind of like your swing thoughts when you're putting, are there certain like key things that you're zoning in on?
Yeah, I really try not to have a swing thought or
Okay.
trying to just focus on the basket. Once I check the wind, check my footing, Make sure nothing's in the way. I just go for it.
Yeah.
In on the basket.
Do you aim at the basket as a whole, or do you like to pick out a certain chain link or part of the band?
Yeah, I like to pick. I don't pick, but I'll pick like a set of chains, and
Okay.
that's the like upper right hand side
Yeah.
of the basket. Because I
Hmm.
do putt with a little bit of hyzer, and so the right side, just crash in.
Yeah, I could definitely tell that's like kind of your aim point with your putt is letting that kind of stall out and crash in at the end. So now that you've got the win under your belt, looking forward to the rest of your season, are there any specific goals you've set for yourself, and have they changed since your win at all?
I think my goals are still the mostly the same. Like I said before, I have the confidence to win now.
Yeah,
I'm in that position, so I know I can do it. So I would love to see more wins, but as far as my goals go, I mean top 15 uh, at every close to every tournament I can do. That would be I consider that a success.
absolutely. Are there any certain events that you kind of pinpoint on your schedule later in the year that are like ones you really want to get?
Yeah, I'm sure most people would say this, but the USD
Yeah,
by far my favorite event of the season,
yeah.
and that's one that I would just love to win.
And you had an eighth place finish there at one point. Is that correct?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, so you've got some history there. It's funny. A lot of the pros I talk to, USDGC is always their target. I think because the World Championship is obviously a big deal, but it seems like USDGC is actually much harder to win, just because winning at Winthrop is no joke. So I can definitely see that that's a trend amongst the pros. Everybody wants that one. So now that you've kind of emerged on tour and have found success at the highest level, you're a winner on tour. How do you kind of picture your disc golf career going, 10 years from now? Like, what is it starting to look like for you?
Yeah, so at the start of this season, I was like, I'll travel around the United States, play some disc golf, and see how it goes. Maybe not do it next year. I
Yeah.
was really excited, um, but after the win, I think I could see myself out here for at least a couple more years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
yeah, long term, 10 years. I don't know. I can't see that far in the future, but
Yeah.
for the next couple years, for the foreseeable future, definitely I'll be out here.
Well, that's awesome. Well, one of the recent things you've done to kind of forward your career is signing with Beacon Sports Management Group. This is kind of becoming more of a trend for disc golf athletes, signing with management groups to kind of help their branding. Talk a little bit about how that opportunity arose and what you hope to gain with that partnership.
Yeah. So reached out to me after, actually before Idlewild,
Hmm.
and um, it was kind of talking to me, kind of offered me a deal, um, just kind of work and find some sponsors for me. So yeah, I talked to him, talked to a couple people on the team, you know, talked to Zach Melton, Gannon Burr, people like that, and they said Beacon is a great place to go, and so I'm excited to work with Xander. I'm excited to work with Beacon. Um, I'm really excited just to see the opportunities that arise from that partnership.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think like social media and branding is something that you definitely want to place like a heavy emphasis on moving forward?
Absolutely. My social media presence isn't that big right now, and so I would love to kind of branch off into and grow that social media presence and influence there.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a tool, and a lot of pros have definitely been gaining a lot of following and been using that to their advantage. Well, anyways, before I let you go, I wanted to ask one more question. I like to get like power rankings on this show, like customized to who I'm interviewing. So I noticed you're a Georgia sports fan. So let's get a power ranking of your top three Georgia sports teams.
Okay. Um, I think the Falcons have to miss the cut. They're not on there. Uh,
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Atlanta United.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
so been to several of their games, and that's just a blast.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I have to go Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep.
Um, really big fan of them. Love watching the games. And shout out to the Braves winning the World last year.
Yeah.
Uh, that was pretty exciting.
There you go. Yeah, certainly a good time to be an Atlanta sports fan and Georgia in general. But anyways, Isaac, thank you so much for joining the show. It was great hearing from you, and I'm sure there's going to be some big things for you in the future of disc golf.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right, and thanks once again to our guest Isaac for joining the show. It was great hearing from him. Super bright future for Isaac. I'm sure with the skill set that he has, he's going to make a huge splash on tour for years to come. But anyways, make sure you're back here next Thursday. We're going to have another great guest. We'll see you then.